Paco, thank you again,
Cool.
man, for coming on, dude. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
It means a lot to me, dude. I'm not just saying that.
Oh, really, dude? Thanks so much. That means
So,
a lot to me. So,
there we go. It's all mutual.
hmm
So let me start off by asking this, man. What is the most challenging part of being part of, I mean, multiple different bands at the same time? I know that you have your hand in lots of different projects at the moment. Like what is the most difficult part of that?
Well, right now, actually, I only have my project that I'm like really putting my 100%, my solo. But there was a point where, yes, I did have like a couple of bands that I was playing with, and the difficult thing that was back then, that must have been about 3 years ago, maybe even a little bit more. It was just like setting up shows, making sure that they didn't how do you say, crash against each other, or I didn't book a show when I had to play with the other band,
Right.
shit like that. But really, that was it. It's never really being like a really big problem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that it just seems like you're juggling so much at one time. I mean,
Yeah.
if anybody could
And
do it, it's you. I know that. That's just a fact.
thanks. Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of times that I had to do like a double duty. I remember with my band Corimia and with Prettiest Eyes. There were maybe, I feel, yeah, a couple of times that we played the same show, and yeah, it's tiring. It's tiring, like just having to play twice in a row. It's yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, just exhausting at the end there.
Yeah, totally.
Well, but you're not doing that anymore. There's no
No,
more.
no more of that. Right now, Prettiest Eyes is like kind of taking a little of a break. Well, since the pandemic, really, and Patchy is doing like his solo stuff, and it's going great. So we're kind of like taking that break, but eventually we'll probably start playing again, and I can't wait. And then that's gonna be, I'm gonna have to be juggling my solo stuff and Prettiest Eyes.
So
So
you're back at it. You're back
yeah,
on the grind there. Yeah.
yeah,
It's about
exactly.
time. Yeah.
About time, man. It's like I always say, it's like medicine.
Yeah. I mean that it seems like a good problem to have if
Uh-huh.
you're juggling two different things. Has that, I mean, in the past, has that helped kind of keep things just running and fresh, like you're constantly surrounded by music?
Yes, it does feel good. It does make me feel like I kind of like um how do you say, yeah, it does feel like I'm doing the right thing. Sometimes if I'm idle for too long, I start getting too much in my head and I start going crazy. But yeah, and I'm used to it. I'm already used to like being super like busy with shit, just even in general, like work and like even going out and meeting friends and stuff. That's like takes some energy. And I'm always just moving around. So when it's all having to do with music, then it's like, oh, okay, I feel like I'm in the right path, or I'm doing the right shit, what I have to be doing. So yeah.
Right. Full, like
Mm-hmm.
just firing on all cylinders constantly. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
In case you didn't know, let me reassure you that it is. It's good. Yeah.
I know, right? Thank you
So
for the reassurance.
yeah, I know you need it. That's basically, that's why I had you on here. It's just a pep talk. That's what we're gonna be doing here today. Just
Yeah.
that's it. No more questions. Just
That's it. It's just talking about like all the shit that I have to be doing.
and how good you are at it.
Oh God, thanks.
Where did the title One Up come from? And is, I mean, and for those that don't know, it's your solo album. Is it?
Hmm.
And it came out, I mean, relatively recently. Where did that come about?
One Up, just really, I mean, from video games. I love video games. But it's video games have been a part of my life since I was a kid, and the music as well. I hadn't realized how impacting was the music, until later, of course, when I started getting into music, I was like, wow, I really like progressive rock and math rock and all this really complex shit for some reason. And then I'm like, start realizing when I really started listening to the music and video games, I'm like, oh, this is all of that. And I've been hearing this since I was a kid. So it makes sense, you know? And
Right.
so my first album, yeah, I wanted to name it something that had to do with video games, you know? And first, you know, one up, this is your first stock. This is your first, you know, life, one up. So yeah, I wanted to name it that, and in hopes also, more than anything, I put out the album in hopes that someone will hear it and want me to make the soundtrack to their video game.
So
So
Atari, Nintendo, get
yeah,
on it. I mean, come on.
yeah, come on. I mean,
Got a whole
Atari is
template.
way gone, but yes, Nintendo, I'll do it, no
Whoever,
problem.
whoever, Xbox. How about that?
Yes, yes, yeah, sure,
Yeah,
I'll take it.
GameCube.
GameCube.
I mean, so if you hadn't been immersed in those sounds as a kid playing video games, you think that you would have stumbled across, you know, as you were saying, like progressive rock and math rock and all these different things?
That's, you know, that's a hard question, because yeah, I want to say yeah, because I feel like, yeah, my taste in, you want to believe that your taste in music just comes from within and it doesn't come from outside sources, I guess. But I don't know, maybe I never thought about that. No.
I'm bringing the
uh,
hard questions here, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this is
Mm,
early. This is early on. So I mean, it only gets
yeah,
progressively harder, much like a
I
video
know,
game.
right?
This is level one, dude.
Yeah, level one. Totally. um yeah, I think I would have had interest in like mathy and progressive rock and music, even if it wasn't for video games. I know it just probably made it easier, and also like in my composition, I was like, you can hear the video game influence really easily. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to get those influences as quickly. And I mean, you know what, it would have been totally a different thing now that I think about it,
Yeah.
if I wouldn't have been into video games. Yeah,
Right.
maybe
Right.
just music, but totally different sounds and stuff, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right. Was there a pivotal moment within music outside of video games that you were like, wow, I really like this or that or whatever? I mean, was there a point that you're like, oh, this is albums that I really like and not just
Yeah,
music?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, pretty much when I started really getting into music, I was like 17. I started kind of late, I guess you could say. My first keyboard, I got it when I was 17. And I yeah, there was a pivoting point exactly that I was like, I mean, it was the times when I had just like kind of begin exploring like smoking weed and like listening to all this trippy shit like Frank Zappa, and I started diving into like Fela Kuti and King Crimson. And I was like, wow, I really like this. I really like this music, and I like the piano, and I'm beginning to learn it. And then um, I started playing in a band with Corimia, and we started really looking for more avant-garde music. And that was when we found out about like Zool, the genre Zool, which is from the band Magma, and from France, and they're like from the early 70s, late 60s. And we started listening to them, and that was absolutely mind-opening. It was Magma, and there was like these Japanese bands called GAK, Ruins, all these other European bands from the 70s, and it just like completely flooded me and my drummer. And yeah, that was the point that I was like, oh, like this is what I want to be playing. I want to be playing like super avant-garde out there stuff, you know. And and that's when I was like, okay, I think I'm a musician. I think I want to like really put my time into this. And so then I started taking lessons for piano, and started and decided to move to LA. And it was all because I fell in love with the music from Magma, really, and all the and avant-garde and noise, and just all that is crazy, really. And so yeah, that was a pivoting moment in my life. I must have been like 18, 19, and I was like, okay, yeah, this band changed my life, along with all the other bands that have been influenced by it. And so yeah, that was my pivoting moment. Yeah.
So I mean, pretty early on, you were kind of just really delving in, just as deep as you can go, right?
Yeah, definitely. And this was before like you could find music super easy. I mean, we had Soulseek and like Napster, where you would have to download some music and shit, you know, and Kazaa or all that. But even there, it was hard to find this music. So the Sergio, is his name, the drummer of Corimia, and I would look online for people who were selling the CDs. And so yeah, we would look online and we would find some very expensive, and the only way to listen to this music was like to buy it like that and get it sent. And then we would just sit and listen to albums like watching a movie, just sit and listen over and over. And yeah, it was pretty early on. We super dove into it. It was that and free jazz, and also abstract surreal movies. Jodorowsky, David Lynch, and all this shit was also like super influential in like just the love for like, yeah, the surreal and the weird.
Yeah, that I mean, that is really cool that you just totally went into that. It's like, this is, I found it
Hmm.
relatively early on, from, I mean, just beginning to be
Yeah,
interested in music. You found your thing. That's really cool. Was
yeah, I
there
think.
was there somebody who was exposing you to this, or what, did you just kind of stumble across it yourselves?
Um, it was pretty much him, the Sergio.
Mhm.
He was him and I, really. It was both of us that we were looking for it. It was kind of funny. Since I was younger, I had an interest in like, for example, I remember watching The Ring, the first The Ring, and I was hanging out with a friend whose mom was really Christian, but she was one of those people who had like a wild past life. You know, they used to like smoke marijuana and go to parties, and they were like crazy, you know. And we were watching The Ring, and you know, the actual movie The Ring is like
Mhm.
kind of like abstract. It's very abstract, you know. There's a nail going into a finger and then changes scenery, and there's like a goat without a leg, and it's like, and I remember we were watching and I was like, wow, I actually, and I mentioned, and I said, I like the actual movie from The Ring, like the thing that they're watching. And the mom goes like, oh yeah, back in my day I used to watch movies that were all that. And I was like, oh really? And I must have been like 16 or something. And really, what movies? And then she goes like, yeah, this director, his name was Alejandro Jodorowsky. And then I was like, oh, okay. And I went home and I wrote it down, and I was like trying to look for this guy, you know, and I found them, and I was like, oh my God, I went to Sergio and I go like, dude, check this shit out. And we dove into it both. And yeah, it was really both of us, but mostly him, because he would always be the one who would just like message me and be like, yo, like I just found out this new band, this new zoo band that we haven't heard of. And oh, okay, cool, I'll go over. And just like, yeah, pretty much. It was a little
Wow.
bit of both, but mostly him, I feel.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
important to have people that share that kind of same mindset, to be like, yeah, you know this, but do you know that? And so,
exactly.
like,
Hmm.
exposing you to this other stuff. Yeah. And it's funny
Yeah,
that it goes outside of music for you as well. It's like, I'm into this kind of film, this kind of, it's a kind of
yeah,
like a whole art
yeah,
directive in a way.
yeah. Because honestly, like to me, the music that we were listening to was really abstract and surreal, and the films to me were like the perfect harmony of it. Like it's the films are just as crazy and surreal as the music, so it's like hand in hand. And it was just like, yeah, like we were getting inspired by both of these things.
Very cool.
Hmm.
Was there did you always have an idea to make an album like One Up, kind of revolving around the backdrop of a video game soundtrack?
Well, honestly, what happened was I've always wanted to make the soundtrack for a video game. It's been always kind of like in the back of my head. And during pandemic, since everything stopped, um, and touring with Prettiest Eyes stopped, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get down and really learn Ableton and really learn how to make my own music, on the computer. So I did, and I started making my own little tunes. And I was like, I'm really gonna aim to make music for games now. Like that's really what I want to do. And then at the end, honestly, I was not really expecting to release an album, or I was not really thinking about it until Bert Hoover,
Oh yeah,
he
he's been on the podcast. Great guy. Go check out his band. And
mhm,
I feel like you're leading to this, Mock Records.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mock Records. So I released a single. I had released a single and called Tijuana Raceway, and I just released it because, again, I just wanted for someone to hear it and be like, "Oh, this sounds like video game music. He should make the soundtrack to my video game or whatever." And he just messages me like, "Yo, do you have any more music like that? Are you thinking of releasing something? I'll release it for you in Mock Records." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I do actually have a bunch of tracks that I've been making over the pandemic. Sure, I'll release it." And so that's how it really came up. Like, if it wouldn't have been for him, like asking me, I probably still had the songs here, and I'd be like trying to put them in my um, repertoire to show like people, or like to pitch,
Yeah,
for
just trying to showcase it. Like, yeah.
yeah. But then it turned out to be an album, and now then after I release the album, people start asking me like, "Hey, you want to play a show? You want to play live?" And I'm like, "Fuck, I don't have a set. I don't have a live set, but sure, I'll do it." And so I've been just figuring out with what like life has been bringing me, and it's been great, honestly. Like I love. Now I'm like, music for video games. Now I'm playing a live. Like maybe I'll push both.
Right. How was that transitional thing for like the first show? Were you like nervous going into it? Like, I don't know how this is gonna work
Oh
out,
my
or
god, dude, I was so nervous because I mean I'm pretty new at learning Ableton and mixing and all that. I'm still. It's always a learning experience. I'm sure even like the most professional ones will tell you. But yeah, I was like very nervous about the mix. I was nervous about everything going up there. It's such personal music. It's so like myself, and I was like, I hope people like it. We'll see what happens. And yes, the first show was crazy because I had just I had to have a like an emergency surgery for kidney stones
oh,
the week before that, dude. And so I was nervous. I was in pain. I couldn't really move that much, and it was a show at the Echo.
mhm.
I was like, wow, my first show at the Echo. Okay, holy shit. And then that happened. I had to get that done and all that. So I was in pain when I was playing that show, and I was also kind of nervous, but also at the same time there was like this like, oh, screw it, kind of like vibe that I had, that I was like, it's my first show. I'm like fresh out of surgery. If it doesn't go well, whatever, I have my excuses, you know. And it actually went great. It actually went really good. I had like, people liked it and I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a trip. Yeah, it was great.
Do you feel like the surgery helped? You're like, all right, now I just have to get surgery every time I perform a show, or else it's not going to go well.
I know, right, dude? I say, man, I've been having like surgeries once a year.
Oh man,
It kind of sucks. Yeah, I know.
that's
Dude.
horrible.
First was a hernia during pandemic, and like now it was a kidney stones. And it's like, wow, so really you turn 30 and really just shit goes downhill, huh?
Gosh,
Like,
dang it. Yeah, that is horrible, man.
yeah,
But the show went well, and that's what really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. It went well, and now I've been getting more invitations to play more from that too. So that's great.
That's awesome. Do you feel like One Up has been a departure from what people are used to hearing from the bands that you've been in?
Yeah, I feel like, people were already expecting some video gamey sounding shit from me before they heard like the album or anything that I released, just because they know my personality and they just know that I like video games and prog rock mathy music. So yes, I do think it was like yeah, people were expecting that. And yeah,
very cool. Yeah. And was it just mostly you, or was it all you that had a hand in, or was it just you that made the album?
It was like 90% me. That was towards the end. I was super nervous because I was hoping that it sounded good, and I hit up a few of my friends, Steve Poloni and George Fierro, who helped me mix and master. Well, George just mastered the whole album, and Steve helped me mix a couple of songs. And I was really, towards the end, I was sending him almost all of my mixes to ask him like, yo, what do you think of this? And then he's like, oh, a little more balance, maybe try, panning a little more or something. He would give me some good advice, and really I learned so much from him. Like, thanks, Steve. Like, damn, he killed it.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. Hopefully he watches this.
It's really important to, I mean, if you are venturing off into like a solo thing in any case, it's very important to have some helping hands in it. Sometimes it's always good, or at least feedback. Yeah, especially
if it's your first, like I was going crazy. There were moments that I would think that, oh, this is good, this mix is good, and then I'd go to a friend's house and then show me some of the stuff that they'd be working on, and I'd be like, my mix sounds like shit. Like, this sounds good. Like, how did you do it? Like, help me out. Like, yeah.
Who has had the biggest influence on the music that you make today?
Today, I mean, it's changed, definitely. Magma was like my beginnings and all, but really to this day, right now, I'd say bands like Yellow Magic Orchestra and
And it's good that it always changes. I mean, it's always good to have a revolving door. You don't want, I mean, like there's always obviously people who are, the roots of it, but it should always be changing.
It should always be changing. I mean, we're humans. We're always changing. We're supposed to,
Right.
Like, it would suck if you just get stuck in the same thing, So yeah, I mean, it has changed, most definitely. So it would be Yellow Magic Orchestra, and honestly, just soundtracks from video games. Like, there was a moment where I was listening nonstop to like Katamari Damacy soundtrack, It's it's amazing soundtrack. Oh, also, this composer, Disaster Piece, he's made soundtracks for like the video game Fez and Hyper Light Drifter, and his soundtracks are amazing. And when I was composing, actually, most of One Up, I was listening to him a lot. He's great. He's great. His sounds are so good. He's like, it's like so tasteful what he does. You can tell that he was really trying to connect with the video game that he was making the music for. And I really appreciate that. And so I was, yeah, trying to grab from that a lot.
Fantastic.
Definitely.
Awesome. When did you join Prettiest Eyes? When did that come about?
That came about, that must have been like, geez, that must have been like 6 years ago, I guess, more or less. So what, 2015, I think.
Wow.
2015, 2016, around there. Yeah, that was, I guess that was it. 15. I want to say 15. Yeah.
We're gonna say it. You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
2015.
2015.
How did you end up linking up with those guys? How did that come about?
Wow, man, it's always like magic, you know. I don't know. It was just, I was working at this place, Nature Well on Sunset, in Silver Lake, and it was like a how do you say, a hub of like just all these like hip people, you know. It was when all these like the hipsters and all that, but there was like also like some truth to that place though, because that, like, yes, there was like a lot of pretentious people, but there were also like real artists who would just go there, and it was just, everyone was going there. And Pachi and I was working there, and Pachi ended up getting hired, and we started talking a lot, getting super along, and we found out that we had a lot of like music in common, and like, and same taste in music, and we would always be playing like our music and be like, oh, who's that dude, that's cool, and just sharing our music at work, you know.
So you guys didn't know each other before this job?
No.
Oh wow.
No.
That's
we
awesome.
Just started, yeah, we started working there, and then he said, oh, I just started this new band, blah blah blah. It's called Prettiest Eyes. It's with my two roommates, Marcos and Love Juice, which was a keyboard player at the time. And I was like, oh, cool, that's cool. And he showed me like their EP, and I was like, wow, this is sick, dude. This is really cool. And they were like, oh yeah, we're playing a show, our first show, blah blah, or second or whatever. And I went to see them, and I was like, wow, I fucking love the vibe that you guys got going. Like, this is so cool. Like, I love it. And then Apache one day walks in, and I remember he was super bummed. He was just like, oh, dude, our keyboard player is leaving. Like, oh, whatever, man. This band was just for fun anyways. Like, I didn't want to take this serious anyways from the beginning. I knew like it was gonna be like that, and blah blah blah. And I go like, oh well, shit, man. I'm sorry to hear that, you know. And the next like few days he comes in and goes like, yo, and I had already thought like, I play keyboards. Hello, you know. And so yeah, a few days after he came in and goes like, yo, would you like to play keyboards in Prettiest Eyes? And I'm just like, yeah, hell yeah, dude. And boom, and then it happened. It just happened.
Wow, that's awesome. Speaking to the idea of vibes, I mean, how important is that for you in within music?
Dude, it's like a romantic relationship, you know. You gotta have that connection with the people who you're playing with, because you do have to be in the same page, like when it comes to dedication and willingness to almost give up certain things for the band, and also scheduling, you know, and and all this stuff. And that, if there's no like real chemistry, it can turn into toxicity pretty quickly. Even if there's that, there can be toxicity, but it's just like that just helps for there to be like this level of understanding that you're all trying to get somewhere together. And with the vibe, when there's good vibe, it's just easier.
Right,
know?
right. You all have to be on the same wavelength for the common goal of completing an album or doing a show that's gonna be well
and then sharing
liked.
influences too. There were moments when we would just sit and be like, okay, let's listen to some music. And I remember listening to music that they would show me that I'd never heard before, actually. Like, excuse me, like starting with Prettiest Eyes really opened my mind as well, in the sense of like I was coming from a really progressive rock world, really technical, really like ahead of the time. Like when you're playing, you're always like on it, and then when I came in with them, they were like, yo, listen to this music behind the beat, grooving, like, I don't simple, repeating the same things over and over. It's okay. It sounds good. And so
more relaxed, just a feeling
more
of
relaxed.
Like,
exactly. So they kind of like, they gave me some tea, and was able to relax a little bit more. And it really, I think actually that has really influenced a lot in like the music that I make now. Absolutely. And it has to do
like
with the vibe.
Yeah, is that bridging the gap between like super structured stuff as well as bringing that kind of mentality in of just like, hey, it's
loose.
It's more, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you help me out with that one. See, I help you out with you help me out. I mean, that's why I need you here, Paco. This is important stuff, man.
It's a symbiotic relationship, man.
That's right. I know that you like to use improvisation a lot, and you perform around that, just like the idea of that a lot. Is it does that kind of feed into that as well? It's like you need to be able to gel with the people that you're trying to just jam with.
Yeah, actually, improvisation, even my love for improvisation really came even before Prettiest Eyes. Yeah, I was already playing with Patrick Shiroishi. He was playing in Corimia and saxophone in Corimia, and then we just decided to be like, yo, let's get together and like just record ourselves like playing like some John Zorn crazy sounding free jazz shit. Okay, cool. So we started doing that, and it was awesome. And we even went on tour with that. It's called Nakata, our project, or our little duo. And yeah, that's when I really found a passion for improvisation. And then Prettiest Eyes came in, and they were all like, yeah, we wanted to be also, noise and improvisation. And I was already like, oh hell yeah, this is like, yeah, I'm into that. Let's do that. I'm willing to bring that into live performance like this, structure, but also looseness and whatever, play all the keys at the same time.
Just being like free with it. But I mean, there's a structure, but there's also, it's like, it's not rigid. It's not rigid structure. It's there's room to move.
Yeah. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
It's very interesting that you have these like both sides of the thing. Like math rock, it's very like, here it is, and just play it like this on top all the time. Just be on it. Wow. And then you have this other idea of like it's everything's gonna work out, kind of feeling to it.
Well, dude, I'll be honest. Like at the beginning, there was like a little bit of friction because I was pretty set on those ways of like that.
It has to be like this, and that's how it works. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, at first there was some friction, but at the end, it was just like, nah, like you gotta let go. You gotta let go of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
From the get-go of joining Prettiest Eyes, did you know immediately like it was gonna this was gonna be actually it's gonna take off, it's gonna go further than they even expected? Did you have that feeling?
I had a feeling, yeah. Honestly, from the beginning, I was like, this shit is good. If we keep going, if we keep pushing, this shit is gonna go far. You know, like it can, you can. It, in my opinion, it still needs to go farther. It still will, like, has to. You know, like there's so much more potential. Like we have so much more music inside of us that we can compose together. Like our chemistry when it comes to composing is like pretty good. Like anytime we jam, we come up with something that just sounds cool and good. Um, so yes, and from the beginning, I was like, yeah, if we keep going, like this is gonna be good. It'll give some fruit, you know.
Awesome. Yeah. And that it seems like a very special thing to have. It's like there's it's been very successful, but it's gonna be even more. There's more to
Yeah,
give. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we all feel the same way. Like
Oh, it's a
all the three of
mutual
us.
mindset kind of thing there.
hmm Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you enjoy the idea of not knowing where a jam or a song is headed while you're in the middle of it? Like, is that what you like about improvisation? If you could pinpoint what you
Mm.
really enjoy about it.
It's not really like it's when you know when improvisation when we play improvisation when I do that, it's not really about thinking what's gonna happen. It's more about what's happening in the moment. It's like, oh, we this sounds really good together. We're really on it right now. And then there's moments when we you go off, everyone whoever's improvising kind of goes off, and then boom joins together, and it's all about that. You know, I'm not like really, it's more in the moment when I'm improvising. I'm just you're paying attention at what everyone is doing right there and then. Who knows what's gonna come in the future or what happened, whatever. You're just there in the moment, and really that's what's exciting for me when I play live, when I play improv. um
Right, right.
yeah.
Very
hmm
cool. Have you ever been in the middle of a jam with someone else, and then you hit on something, you're like, maybe I can use that in another sense of like an actual structured song? As that ever came about like that?
yeah.
Ideas and whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely, all the time. Yeah, even like when, yeah, when we're like jamming at like the practice space or something, and we're improvising or something, I'll be taking off my phone and just like hitting record really quick to just like hear whatever line I'm doing or whatever, and then just like, okay, I'll save that for later. And for the most part, never anything happens with those things. But yeah, I do get inspiration from improvisation, absolutely.
Very nice, very nice.
Mm.
Do you prefer, I mean, is it different that just jamming with people and not knowing where it's gonna go, just privately, like in this in like a recording studio, or just as a practice studio, and then in front of people? Is there a different kind of feeling to that?
Oh man, that's a good question. There
I
is a different
appreciate it.
feeling.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is definitely a difference. Geez, it depends. Like I used to really enjoy when Patrick used to have, I think it was his boss was letting him have this mini grand piano in his house, and we would just set up recording right there, and I'd be smashing the shit out of that piano. I hope she's not listening, but oh boy, we would go ham on that little piano, and Patrick just wailing. And that was so much fun. It was just him and I, and we were just transcending and playing all this insane shit. That was really fun. Whereas in a live show, I'll be honest, there's been some live improv shows where I come out and I'm like, oh, that was not good. Like I didn't feel connected. Like, I don't know. So I would say maybe just playing with just someone else on our own sometimes is like good. But then I can't say that because I played some live shows that have been so good too. And I just like, yeah, it's different. There's more success rate when I'm just when it's just like on a studio, I guess
Right.
you could say.
Do
But whatever
you
that means, it's improv, you know.
right, right. There's no real form to it. I mean, there is a form, but it's very,
Hmm.
as we've been saying before, loose. Do
Yeah.
you walk away from those jam set like live improvisation sessions with like feeling good about it, or feeling like that went poorly? Is it more of it went well than poor, or more poor than well?
It's half and half. It's half and half. Yeah. There's been plenty of shows where it's been like great, and there's been some shows that it's been like, oh my god, I like want to disappear right now. Like there was one show I remember, it was at what's this place with the weird, it's like avant-garde, they only do avant-garde, and it's a little spot in downtown. It's got like a weird name, I forget it right now. Whatever, maybe
That's
it'll
all right.
come
They're
back.
not even a sponsor. I don't even care. We're not
Ah,
shouting them out unless they're paying.
awesome,
Anyways,
sick.
the spot.
Well,
You're at the
that
spot.
spot, yeah, we played there, man, and I couldn't hear the guitar player who was like on the other side, and it was drums, guitars, saxophone, and myself. And I don't think the guitar player could hear me either. So, like I said before, when I'm playing improv shows, really you want to be hearing everything and everyone, so you can like contribute, you know, to whatever is happening.
Find
And
your
it just
place and whatnot. Yeah.
exactly. And so since we couldn't hear each other, and it was it just felt like a mess. And then my something happened with like the um mini micro card that I was using, this thing that I was using.
Mhm.
Something happened, it turned off, and I was like not having it. And I remember getting out of that show like, fuck, dude, that was embarrassing, because I saw people standing up and leaving because it just sounded like a mess, man. I was like, oh, this just sounds like these kids just got on their instruments and started like banging on their shit. And I was like, well, oh well,
You
like
got too
that's just,
experimental there that night.
yeah, too experimental that night. But that just happens, you know,
Is
sometimes.
placement is important then for you? Yeah, I mean, like where you're situated, because you want to hear like everything, and be
Well,
sure to be
yeah, I
coming
mean,
in.
I guess placement doesn't really matter if you have monitor, you know,
Mhm.
as long as I can hear everyone. Then yeah, hearing everyone is important for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's really important. That's a key
Yeah.
component of that.
Uh-huh. More than placement.
Was One Up created through improvisation, just like kind of hashing out some ideas with people, or was it kind of on your own? You're like, that, yeah, that sounds good,
Mm,
and I should incorporate that.
it was, you know, it was all on my own, really. It was, some of them were just ideas that I already had for a while, that I just record on my phone with like a drum machine or something. And then once I started learning Ableton, I was like, okay, now I'm gonna put it in Ableton, and it's gonna be more structured. And for the most part, all the album is like, was just composed on the spot, not really much improvisation. Unless I started kind of running out of ideas, and I just loop a section and like improvise on top of it and be like, oh, that sounded cool. Okay, so now I'm just gonna keep that and record it.
That's
And
awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
very very
pretty
cool.
much.
If
Hmm.
if it hadn't been for piano, what do you think you would have been driven to learn?
I feel like maybe either guitar or a percussive instrument like drums. Yeah, but most likely guitar.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, I remember when I was a kid, my dad had a guitar, and it took me a while, because I remember when I was getting into music, I was like, it was hard because my family wasn't really into the idea that I wanted to do music. Out of nowhere, when I was 17, um, so I remember being like, wow, okay, so all of a sudden I like music. That's crazy. Like, never before. And then I thought, oh shit, I remember my dad used to have a guitar, and I used to go and like get it. It was hidden, and I used to get it and like just like put it like that, and like just strum it and like make sounds with it and stuff. And then he'd come in and be like, this is not for kids, and just like put it away. But I remember like, damn, okay, since I was little, yeah, I had interest in music. Just my parents like never like actually acknowledged that, because music is like I don't know, nothing to them.
Right. How do they feel about it now? Were they like, oh wow, like this is really
Man, I still get calls from my mom like, mijo, so what, so how's but have you thought about like maybe doing something else? Like, are you still trying to play with your little? My dad called me like, oh, are you still playing the little piano, the little thing, the little keyboards? I'm like, yeah, I'm still playing the pianito, the little keyboards. Yeah, still doing it. And then it's funny because even though I tell them like, oh my God, I'm going on tour to Europe with my band, you know, it's like that doesn't mean anything.
yeah.
I
I
don't know.
mean,
Yeah, as long because it's one of those where like parents, or some parents, think that in order to be successful with music, you have to be super fucking famous. You know, like, oh, okay, you're successful if you're like famous. Successful musicians are famous ones, like
Elton
the ones,
John, yeah. Bob
yeah,
Dylan, yeah.
The
If you're not a
Beatles,
household
whatever.
name, you're
Yeah,
not.
exactly. Hmm.
How'd you feel the first time that you're going to Europe? How was that feeling for
It
you?
was so exciting, dude. It was so exciting. I was so stoked about it. I couldn't wait. It was like a dream come true. And I was also very nervous as well. Nervous just because I was hoping everything sounded well. You know, I was like, this is, oh, okay, we need to get like these power things that are different. I hope my fuse doesn't blow up. I hope all my shit actually works with this, like power adapters and all these. And it did. Everything was fine at the end. It was great. Yeah.
That's awesome. That
Hmm.
is really cool. I mean, were you shocked that when you were there, you're like, wow, I'm like playing a show in
Yeah,
Europe?
man. Absolutely. I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. Like, I can't wait to keep doing it though. Just even with my project, you know, I hope that eventually I can start traveling again and playing my solo shit. That would be so dope. Oh, can't wait.
He's coming for you, Europe. Listen up, you heard it here.
Yes.
Yeah, you're on the way.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
What goes through your mind kind of the day of going into to record an album, like in a studio and whatnot? Are you nervous? Are you like excited to get it out? What's your mindset on that day?
Oh, that's uh my usually there's a little bit of nerves, yeah. Um there's a little bit of nerves. Also, wonder, like just like, oh, I've only heard this live or I practice. I wonder how it's gonna sound once it's all laid out there, you know. So yeah, there's that sense of wonder a lot. And nerves, of course, is like, okay, gotta, let's go, you know, let's play it perfect, or as perfect as possible. But the more, you know, the more that we've been going to the studio, like this last time that we went, it was pretty comfortable. It was like we've been already here like 3 4 times, and like, yeah, now let's just get this over and make a good job, do a good job at it. So
You know what to expect. You know what you're coming into at this point.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
which
that's
is
how it felt last time for
it's
sure.
like the exact opposite of improv, though. I don't know how you like that so much. It says you know exactly what's gonna happen. It's
Well,
more of a
maybe
math rock.
maybe it comes from that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Paco, man, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really do
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much. Yeah,
And I like to
absolutely.
wrap it up with some promo. So Prettiest Eyes
Mhm.
is streaming everywhere. People can go buy the merch at prettiesteyes.bandcamp.com or castlefacerecords.com.
Mhm.
Perfect. Both those places fantastic. And everyone can stream one up everywhere, right? You're
Yeah.
everywhere, YouTube, Spotify.
As
Uh
Paco Casanova, you know.
that's right. You heard it here. I mean, like what else is there to say? No, but and go buy the album Alpha of Mock, and that's at mockrecords.bandcamp.com. Very
hmm
very good record label, good guys that are running it, good people who are on. I mean, what else do you want? I mean, what else? That's
Yeah.
it. That's all you want from a record label. A good guy running it, nice people who are a part of it, good
Uh-huh.
records,
Absolutely.
and Mock checks off all those boxes. And so is Bert.
Yeah.
Anyways, am I missing anything, Paco? Are we missing anything before we cut you loose here?
No, man, I think we're good. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for coming on, man. All right. I'm gonna stop recording it. I'll talk to you in a minute. All right.
Alrighty,
All
you
right.
got it.
Thank you, man.